The sterile smell of antiseptic hung heavily in the maternity ward, mixing with the soft cries of newborns and the hushed footsteps of nurses moving from room to room. On a narrow hospital bed by the window lay Alina, pale and exhausted, her arms trembling slightly as she held her newborn son for the first time. The joy she expected to feel was there, fragile but real, yet it was overshadowed by fear and tension tightening her chest. She knew the moment would not pass peacefully. Her mother-in-law, Valentina Petrovna, stood rigid near the door, her lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line, eyes cold and sharp as if she were inspecting a mistake rather than greeting her grandson. Valentina did not bother lowering her voice. She spoke as if the walls themselves were her allies. She accused Alina of trapping her son, of being weak, unworthy, and careless. According to her, Alina had ruined everything: the family name, her son's future, and now even the dignity of childbirth by giving birth, without proper preparation, whatever that was supposed to mean. Nurses exchanged uneasy glances but remained silent, bound by rules and exhaustion. Alina's hands shook as Valentina's words cut deeper than any physical pain she had endured hours earlier. "You should leave," Valentina finally said, her voice firm and merciless. "As soon as they discharge you. Don't think you're staying in our home. My son deserves better." Alina looked down at her baby, fighting tears. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but her voice refused to come. She had no strength left, physically or emotionally. Valentina mistook her silence for defeat and straightened her shoulders with grim satisfaction. She had always believed power belonged to those who spoke the loudest. The door suddenly opened. Heavy, confident footsteps echoed across the room, entirely out of place in the quiet ward. Valentina turned, ready to scold yet another stranger, but the words died in her throat. A man stood there whom she had never expected to see. Tall, calm, dressed simply but with an unmistakable authority, he looked at Alina first, then at the baby, his expression softening instantly. It was Victor, Alina's father. He had arrived unannounced, having flown overnight after receiving a short, broken message from his daughter. Victor had not been present in Alina's life as often as he wished, having worked abroad for years, but he was not the kind of man who ignored pain when he heard it. He walked slowly to the bed, placed a gentle hand on Alina's shoulder, and looked directly into Valentina's eyes. "I think you're confused," Victor said quietly. "This is not your stage. This is a hospital. And this woman is my daughter." Valentina opened her mouth but nothing came out. The certainty she had carried minutes earlier evaporated under Victor's steady gaze. He did not shout. He did not insult her. His calm was far more intimidating than anger. He spoke of dignity, of respect, and of the fact that no one, regardless of status or pride, had the right to humiliate a woman who had just given birth. He reminded Valentina that families were built on care, not control, and that if her son had any honor, he would choose compassion over cruelty. For the first time, Valentina felt exposed. Her rehearsed lines meant nothing here. Nurses paused at the doorway, sensing the shift in power. Alina felt something loosen inside her chest as she listened. Victor kissed his daughter's forehead and promised she would never be alone again. He would arrange everything: support, housing, legal matters, whatever she needed. The baby stirred softly, as if sensing the change in the room's energy. Valentina turned away without another word. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor as she left, her pride wounded more deeply than she would ever admit. The door closed behind her with a dull finality. Alina exhaled, tears finally spilling freely, but this time they were not only tears of pain. They were tears of relief. Elsewhere, far from the quiet drama of the maternity ward, another confrontation was unfolding under bright studio lights. The set of the Today Show buzzed with artificial cheer, cameras rolling, smiles rehearsed. Jack Black sat across from Savannah Guthrie, his usual playful energy subdued. The interview began lightly, but soon the tone shifted. Questions became sharper, edging into mockery, dredging up old rumors and failures rather than celebrating current work. Savannah pressed on, smiling as if the discomfort were part of the entertainment. Jack shifted in his seat, laughter fading from his eyes. He tried to redirect the conversation, but the questions kept coming, each one more dismissive than the last. The audience chuckled nervously. Jack finally raised his hand, signaling enough. He spoke calmly at first, explaining that humor did not mean humiliation, that openness did not grant permission for disrespect. Savannah attempted to laugh it off, but the damage was done. Jack stood up. The movement startled everyone. He thanked the crew politely, then turned to Savannah and said that he valued honesty but not cruelty disguised as curiosity. Without another word, he walked off the set. The cameras caught everything: the awkward silence, the forced smiles, the sudden realization that a line had been crossed. Both moments, though worlds apart, echoed the same truth. Whether in a hospital room or a television studio, power loses its grip the moment dignity is reclaimed. Alina held her child closer, knowing her journey would not be easy but finally believing she deserved respect. Jack Black's exit sent a quiet message to millions watching: self-worth does not require permission, and sometimes the bravest act is simply walking away. The maternity ward was unusually quiet that afternoon, as if the building itself were holding its breath. Snow pressed softly against the windows, blurring the city beyond into a pale, distant haze. Marina lay propped up on stiff white pillows, her body aching in ways she had never imagined, her heart torn between overwhelming love and quiet dread. Her daughter slept beside her in a transparent crib, tiny fingers curled, breathing shallow and perfect. This was supposed to be the safest moment of Marina's life. Instead, it felt like a battlefield. Her mother-in-law, Zenaida Ivanovna, stood near the foot of the bed like a judge delivering a sentence. Her coat was still on, her purse clutched tightly, as if she had no intention of staying long. Her eyes moved from Marina to the baby and back again, not with tenderness but with calculation. She spoke sharply, listing grievances Marina had heard many times before: how she was never good enough, how her upbringing was wrong, how her son had married beneath himself. The birth of a child, Zenaida claimed, did not change facts. If anything, it only made mistakes more permanent. "You'll leave after discharge," she said coldly. "I won't allow chaos in my house. A child needs discipline, not tears and weakness." Marina felt the words settle heavily in her chest. She was too tired to argue, too shocked to cry. She glanced at her daughter, silently apologizing for the world she had been born into. Nurses passed by the open door, pretending not to hear. Zenaida mistook their silence for agreement and lifted her chin with satisfaction. Then the sound of laughter drifted in from the corridor, unexpected, warm, and entirely out of place. Footsteps followed, slow and confident. A man appeared in the doorway, holding a bouquet of flowers and a worn leather bag slung over his shoulder. Zenaida froze. She recognized him instantly. It was Sergei, her son's estranged uncle, a man she had not spoken to in years. Sergei walked straight past Zenaida as if she were invisible and stopped beside Marina. He placed the flowers gently on the table and looked down at the sleeping baby with quiet wonder. His eyes softened, and for a moment the tension in the room seemed to dissolve. "So this is her," he said quietly. "She's beautiful." Zenaida found her voice again, sharp with irritation. She demanded to know why he was there and who had invited him. Sergei turned slowly, meeting her gaze without hostility, only clarity. He reminded her that he had every right to visit his grandniece and that he had heard enough to understand why Marina had sounded so afraid on the phone. "You always rush people to the wrong station," Sergei said calmly. "You think control is strength, but it's just fear wearing a loud coat." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. Zenaida's face flushed, her mouth opening, then closing again. Sergei spoke of responsibility, of how families collapse not from weakness but from cruelty. He reminded her that love demanded humility, and that no woman who had just given birth should be threatened, ever. The nurses lingered now, no longer pretending. Zenaida felt the room turn against her. She left without another word, her authority shattered by the very family she believed she owned. Later that week, in a brightly lit television studio thousands of miles away, another illusion of control was breaking apart. Jack Black sat under hot lights, adjusting his jacket, smiling politely as the audience applauded. The interview on the Today Show had started with jokes and familiar banter, but it didn't stay there. Savannah Guthrie leaned forward, her questions edging into uncomfortable territory. She pressed him about past failures, mocked his appearance under the guise of humor, and suggested his success was more luck than talent. Jack laughed at first, trying to keep the tone light. But the questions kept circling, sharper each time. The laughter in the audience thinned. Jack's smile faded, replaced by something steadier and more serious. He spoke about respect, about how humor should never be used as a weapon. Savannah tried to move on, but the damage was done. Jack stood up slowly, the scrape of his chair loud in the sudden silence. He thanked the crew, nodded to the band, and turned to Savannah with a calm that carried weight. "I came here to talk about my work, not to be reduced to a punchline," he said. "I know who I am." Then he walked off set, leaving stunned faces and blinking cameras behind. The moment rippled across social media within minutes, sparking debates about dignity, boundaries, and the cost of silence. Back in the hospital, Marina held her daughter close, feeling something new settle inside her, not fear, but resolve. She knew challenges lay ahead, but she also knew she was no longer powerless. Somewhere between Sergei's quiet defense and Jack Black's public stand, the same truth echoed clearly: respect is not granted by those who humiliate, it is claimed by those who refuse to endure it.